this is John Sadak, TV voice of the Cincinnati Reds, and you're up for Late Night Reds Talk.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome to Late Night Reds Talk Live, part of the Believe Podcast Network, sponsored as always by Bet Online. We're so excited to have you with us tonight for our final live show of 2021. We've got an awesome guest with us tonight that we'll introduce here in just a second. Before we get to all that, I want to take a minute to tell you guys about our partner, Bet Online. They got a new web interface with a ton of props, odds, and lines. I know that we've got 2 NFL games tomorrow that you can still get a bet in on. I also see that the Lakers are 7-point underdogs at home tomorrow against the Suns. That is an interesting line. So go ahead and head on over to the new updated desktop or mobile website, and you can sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code BELIEVE50 to receive your bonus. That is BLAE50. Carlos, the Bengals 2.5-point favorites on Sunday against the Ravens. Do you think they're going to cover the spread?
They're at home?
Yeah, they're at home.
Yeah.
You like that? Okay. So you get your betting advice from our guy Carlos. Go on over, place a bet, and you can blame him if you're wrong. So
if I'm wrong, I'm at Tim Daniels. That's with an S.
But we're excited. We've got Bobby Nightengale, the Cincinnati Enquirer, on with us tonight. Bobby does an awesome job covering the Reds. Bobby, how you doing?
Good. Thanks for the invite onto the show.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've kind of had a crazy couple years since you joined the Reds beat. You had the 2020 season. Now you're in the middle of a lockout. Has it been as crazy covering the team as it looks from afar?
A little bit. I mean, I feel like, especially now, I mean, they closed clubhouses right when the pandemic hit. That's kind of been the biggest change. Is you feel like, I mean, there's some guys that it's like my relationship is basically based off of pre-2020 type dealings with players. I mean, it just feels like the last 2 years have kind of put everything on hold. We got a little bit closer this past year. We were on the field at least, but it's still not the same as it used to be. So that's kind of the biggest changes. Don't quite feel like I know as many people the same way as I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, surely you got to miss out on a lot of good stories. Just the back and forth banter before the games, after the games.
I've told people, I think, like, when you see the clubhouses open, and I don't know if that'll even happen this upcoming season, but like as soon as you see it open, I feel like the first month and a half are all going to be stories of what everyone missed the past 2 years. Like,
yeah, for sure.
This team fight, and you missed this, and you missed that, and I feel like we're going to be playing catch up for a while.
Yeah.
So we actually do have some Reds news, which is wild since it's December 20th, and we're also in the middle of the lockout. So we got to start off, of course, with that. So Jake Bauers was signed today. He is a left-handed batter, first base, left field, right field, signed to a minor league deal. Baseball America's number 45 overall prospect entering 2018. Traded from Tampa to Cleveland as part of like a 3-player deal with Yandy Diaz. One thing that stuck out to me as kind of a positive on him, career .312 expected weighted on base average versus right-handed pitchers. That's just right about league average, kind of what he's expected to do. I'm assuming the Reds will be looking at him as more of a platoon type player. I did it for the cycle with Cleveland in 2019. Not a great fielder, not necessarily a massive liability. Above average speed and walk rate, and a high strikeout rate. Bobby, let's start with you. What's your thoughts on Jake Bauers? I know this news hasn't been out that long. Were you able to kind of get any insight on him and that signing?
Not a ton. I mean, just another non-roster guy. I mean, if he contributes, that's great. See, it seems like the Reds lately have been like you see a lot of top prospects. I feel like last year they got a ton of like top prospect former pitchers, like Jose De Leon types. And now, I mean, Jake Bauers, you see a top 50 prospect. I feel like the coaching staff's always, if you can figure him out, he can pop, but he hasn't been able to figure out the majors yet.
Yeah. I mean, what's the harm in it? I mean, it is a top 50 prospect. So that's kind of nice. Interesting that he's fallen that far off. I mean, that was the injury 2018. That wasn't really that long ago. I know that the Cleveland really liked him. I do live up here in Cleveland. I remember hearing about how much they really liked him. I mean, they did trade Yanni Diaz, was pretty good player in his own right. And then last year, even as bad as he was, he stayed on a major league roster the entire year. That was kind of what stuck out to me. I think he did battle some injuries, but he never got sent down or anything like that. So that's kind of interesting. I mean, hey, he's a guy kind of worth a shot. Carlos, you got any interesting take on Mr. Bowers?
I don't. I mean, just to echo what you said, I mean, it's not bad to bring in somebody who was the top 50 just 3 years ago. I mean, didn't even play in 20, so who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get lucky.
Yeah, I think 20 he was in the alternate site and never got the call up. But I mean, it was only a 60-game season. You didn't really have as many, players shuffling in and out. So yeah, that's it on Jake Bauer. That was the big Reds news. Bobby, did I miss any other intense news over the week?
Don't think so. That's the one thing about the lockout. It's like, as a beat writer, completely down these days.
Brian Price went to the Padres. There's that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Still kicking it. I do kind of want to ask you, Bobby, something that I know you've wrote, extensively about it. It's been obviously one of probably the biggest topic among the Reds this offseason so far. Do you feel that the Reds getting to the lockout without trading Castillo, Gray, or Malley, do you think it makes it more likely that they keep them, or do you think it doesn't matter? What's your thoughts on? I kind of felt like maybe there was like kind of this like soft deadline of the lockout. What do you think?
Yeah, but I feel like it was one of those, if a team missed on a bunch of free agents, like I know the Blue Jays it felt like they were on every free agent pitcher. They ended up getting, trying to remember who they signed. They got a Barrios, and then they signed a free agent, maybe Robbie Ray. No, not Robbie. He went to Seattle, but somebody else. But it was like if the musical chairs ended up and there was no team that got a pitcher that they wanted, especially those teams looking for high-end pitchers, I thought those would have made sense after the lockout, like Castillo, maybe they overpay for Castillo type deal. But I feel like for trade purposes, I mean, you might as well just keep your high price tag. I mean, I know the Reds value Luis Castillo a lot. He still has 2 years left. Same with Tyler Malley. The coaching staff really likes him a lot. And Sonny Gray, I mean, he probably makes the most sense if you're going to end up trading a starter. To me, you're kind of stuck in this. Do the Reds go for it next year in 2022, or do they kind of just kick the can down the road and say, let's build the team a little bit for 23 and 24? And so if you make that determination that you can't win a division next year, to me, it just makes sense. Sonny Gray would be kind of be the first one, just because he's older, on lesser of a contract, and he could help contenders, definitely.
Yeah. I know the Zips projection just came out, and I know, man, we kind of look at that and you're like, oh, wow, these actually look pretty good. These are actually, very encouraging. Obviously, the Reds already have their own projection system. Like they weren't surprised by what they saw there, maybe as much as the rest of us. But yeah, I definitely find that kind of interesting. Kevin Gossman was the one the Blue Jays signed. They did have Robbie Ray though. They had got him before. He got away. So yeah, interesting. Carlos, you got a question for Bobby?
Not really anything that I thought of. Nothing from the top of my head, really. Maybe for any of the listeners that are out there, Bobby, like tell us a little bit about your background, like how you got into in there with the Reds.
Yeah, just completed my 4th season with the Reds. So been in Cincinnati for 3.5 years. My first experience in Cincinnati. Before this, I covered college football and basketball for the University of Kansas. Before that, covered high schools. I also did an internship with MLB.com, covered the Detroit Tigers in 2013. So that was my first experience covering baseball. And that's kind of what really just kind of made me push to work, cover a baseball team. My dad's also a writer for USA Today. So kind of always knew the lifestyle of it, knew the background, but it was never kind of the big misconception that I hear from people. Like, I was never in a press box, didn't really go to many more games than anybody else. It was just kind of got to see what a beat writer's life looked like away from the press box. So that was probably the biggest thing that helped me growing up. And then getting that internship with MLB.com in 2013, that was like, okay, now this is kind of what I want to work towards, because that internship's like a backup beat writer position. And so that was kind of the thing I've always been working towards. And then finally getting to work and cover baseball teams, that's kind of what my dream was. And then happy to be here in Cincinnati, where it's been a lot of fun covering the team. I mean, just kind of a lot of ups and downs in the last 4 seasons.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, there's definitely not been any dull moments with the Reds the last couple of years. Good or bad, it's just definitely a very interesting team. Always something. I got a couple more questions that I've that I'll grill you on here, Bobby. So the Reds payroll the last 3 years, 2019 was 126 million. 2020 pre-COVID was 147. 2021 was 122. I think right now it's about estimated at 105. Could obviously, go up if the league minimum goes up and a couple of things like that. But it's probably roughly, at least less than probably 110 million. Do you think that the Reds are going to get back up to that 120 or above? Like, that's kind of been their low water mark the last 3 years. Do you think that, like, if the playoffs are expanded in the new CBA, that might change some of their spending? I feel like it might be a really, tough sell to the fan base, even, more the rational fans, that after you had fans in the stands for, most of the year, if the payroll was less, what's your kind of sense on the payroll, or do you even have a sense?
Yeah, I do think it will be less. I mean, I know that's the disappointing answer, but I just from the vibes you get, like even the first move they made. I mean, they trade Tucker Barnhart to start the offseason. And in the press release, I mean, Nick Krall came out and said this is payroll's kind of the aligning payroll to resources was kind of the answer he gave right away. But I mean, you could have sold that as a baseball decision. Hey, we have Tyler Stevenson in the wings. We can't afford a $7.5 million backup. So, I mean, you could have defended that trade in baseball reasons without bringing up payroll. But the fact they brought it up right away was kind of the big light saying payroll's going down. I don't know if they have to cut a lot more. It might just be a thing where if you can, great. If you can't, this is the roster you're going to have, and you're not going to be able to make major improvements to it. And so I think that's where you're kind of seeing the lack of activity. The Reds kind of just waited everything out, and nothing fell to them before the lockout. But I just don't see any big moves coming. I mean, I think if you trade a starter, obviously you have innings to give away to some free agents out there. You'd probably look for younger talent if you make a trade, but it's just I just feel it like it's gonna come down at least a little bit. Like you said, it's 105 now. Maybe it goes 110 from 120 last year, but I'd be really surprised if it was back up to kind of where it was before.
Were you surprised at any of the non-tender decisions that they kept everyone? After kind of that signaling that you kind of felt you heard from the Miley and Barnhart deals, were you surprised at all that they kept everyone?
No, just because I feel like everyone still had a big role. I mean, you still look at like Tyler Naquin was the big outfielder that was still on there. Luis Sessa and Amir Garrett, Jeff Hoffman. Those were kind of like the relievers. Sessa obviously was really dominant at the second half after he got traded. Amir, I mean, I just think the Reds don't want to give up on him. I don't think any of those guys were so cost prohibitive that they felt like, we're in trouble payroll wise, cut costs to keep them. But like Jeff Hoffman, he looked better in the bullpen last year. Amir, if he figures things out, returns closer to what he was in 2019, 2018. He's a guy who can dominate left-handed hitters. So, I mean, you could still build around those guys going forward. So I wasn't surprised that they kept all those guys. I think it would have been a bad sign if they got rid of a few of those guys and said we need to cut payroll further. But I think that was just more, to me, it was kind of like more of a wash type, just because there wasn't a huge set of decisions they had to make.
I know you've wrote a little bit about this. Can you tell us a little bit more about seems like there's been a lot of talk about the Reds' new focus on international scouting. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's something they started a few years ago. I mean, it's how they got Vladimir Gutierrez, Jose Barrero, and then Alfredo Rodriguez was kind of the big guy in that signing class. He's in AAA, just hasn't panned out the way they expected. But I think it's one of those that they've kind of made a bigger push in terms of you really have to have boots on the ground, settle relationships. I mean, the unfortunate reality of it is a lot of these kids commit to teams when they're 13 years old, 14 years old. They can't sign until they're 16, but they usually have, verbal agreements. This is kind of where I'm going. And then you have the strategy. Do you go after the top players in the international signing class, which it seems like what the Reds are going to do going forward, where they're getting some of these top heavy signing bonus type guys compared to spreading the money around and giving everyone, $800,000 and spreading the money that way. But now it's a little bit more structured too, where every team has a set amount of money that you can spend on an international signing class. It used to be unlimited, and that's where you saw the Reds really didn't touch it at all. So now it's kind of more of a level playing field, and I think the Reds are doing better in terms of we're going to target these guys, and we're not afraid to spend for the top guys. And even like Ellie De La Cruz, who's turned into, I think he's going to be a top 100 prospect in most places. Only signed for $65,000, which is pretty low for the international level guys. So if you hit on a couple of those guys and you hit on a couple of your top guys like the Jose Barreros and Vladimir Gutierrez, that's huge for your farm system. So it's kind of a newer focus, but it's something that I think it's paid dividends already.
That's interesting. I didn't know that they were doing that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it started under Dick Williams, and then Nick Krall's kind of done the same thing. The big thing to watch in the next CBA when they get out of this lockout, I think everyone expects there will be a amateur international draft. And so that'll really kind of level the playing field even further just because it'll be more of a traditional draft setting. But the Reds are kind of prepared for that too. I mean, I know they've hired this offseason more international cross-checkers and scouts just to kind of match what they're doing on the amateur draft United States side. So I know they're prepared for that possibility.
Are you able to sign international players right now?
The next signing period is the 15th. So a bunch of those guys, like I said, they have the verbal agreements, so they'll sign on the 15th. But there's a guy from Venezuela. I think Ricardo Cabrera, I think is his name, but he's ranked number 3 by Baseball America and Fangraphs, shortstop from Venezuela. So obviously it's a lot of projection. I mean, these guys are 16, 17 years old when they're signing, but when you're getting a guy that's that highly rated, I mean, that's something the Reds haven't really done besides the Chapmans and Raisel Iglesias. So
you think you're getting the indication that they're going more for the high-end players instead of, trying to get more. I mean, these guys are all, in some respects, lottery tickets, but they're getting more of the high-dollar lottery tickets is kind of what you're hinting at?
Yeah, I think so. I think they're playing in the, trying to compete with the Dodgers and the Nationals and the Yankees because those are usually the big teams that get the top guys because it's also kind of like a prestige type thing. I mean, players, it's not unlimited money anymore. So now you're trying to compete where, a lot of Dominican kids see Juan Soto with the Nationals and they go, well, that's, I'd love to kind of follow his footsteps. And so I think that's kind of important too, is being able to sell the organization that way. And it just seems like if the Reds are starting to get some of these guys that are highly ranked, to me that says you're going to give them a high bonus, and then you're kind of challenging other teams in different fields for the top players.
Have you heard anything on Barrero? I saw that he played a couple games. It was like 0 for 8, and then he hasn't been in the lineup, but I haven't seen any news unless I missed something.
I think they're going to it's a 16 Dominican league, and I think it goes to 4 for the playoffs. And so I think we're in that window where it's like teams qualified for the playoffs. Now it's maybe the playoffs begin after Christmas. I'm not sure when the next set of games are. But yeah, you're right. He only played 2 games, and then I think he was on the lineup for 2, and then I assume he's going to play with them at least for the first little bit in the playoffs throughout January.
Okay, we didn't get hurt or anything that we know of.
Not that I've heard, no.
Okay, all right, good. Wasn't sure on that. It's really hard to piece through the news down there. You know, I'm usually pretty good at being able to kind of search and find things when you're trying to translate tweets, and it really is a challenge.
Got to brush up on that Espanol, Nick.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to send you tweets. You can read them. You can decipher them for me.
Send them to Joey. He's way better at it than I am.
Okay, all right. A couple other things for Bobby before we get you out of here. Who do you think's an under the radar player that could help the big league team in 2022?
Like one who's already on the team?
Just someone who could be a contributor that maybe we're not expecting. You know, maybe someone that hasn't made their big league debut, but someone on the big league roster that you think could be a contributor that maybe is under the radar.
I feel like under the radar in terms of if he stays healthy, that's the big question. Nick Senzel is like always the first guy that comes to my mind. I mean, he looks good every time I watch him play in like spring training, the summer camp in July 2020. He looks a lot better. I mean, it's just one of those injuries just keep popping up and kind of derailing his seasons. But I know he still has a lot of supporters among the Reds front office and saying we don't want to trade him. We still believe in him. I mean, he's a former number 2 pick, former top 10 prospect in all of baseball. I mean, it's one of those, if he figures things out, and I feel like Jonathan India was like, that was supposed to be the Nick Senzel, what he's supposed to look like. And if he can turn into that in center field especially, I mean, that solves a lot of problems. I felt like he would have solved a lot of problems if he came back healthy last year. But it's just one of those, if he can figure things out, I think that goes a long way for the Reds, not even just next year, but even the years after that. And then probably coming up, I would say probably Nick Lodolo. I mean, I think he's highly rated. I think everyone has high expectations for him. But I'm excited to see what he does. I mean, I remember I saw him shortly after he got drafted, maybe the first month after he got drafted, and Kyle Farmer caught him in Dayton on a rehab assignment. And Kyle Farmer, he was catching at the time. He was like, he looks like Chris Sale out there. And he kind of reminded him of Alex Wood a little bit, and Alex Wood was still on the team at that time and was college teammate with Farmer. So, I mean, he gave him a lot of really high praise, and all Lodolo's done is dominate the minor leagues when he's been healthy and pitched. So I think he could be a guy that, second half of the season, you could really see some big innings out of him.
Yeah, Senzel's kind of one of those players that everyone was super high on when he came up, and they've kind of forgotten about him in some ways. But yeah, I mean, the Red ceiling, it shoots up so much higher if they're able to get, honestly, even probably just a healthy Nick Senzel, just who can play, because he can contribute in more ways than I think than just hitting, with his speed and his defense. Feel free, you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, Bobby. There's a lot of chatter that the Reds and Senzel aren't on good terms. You don't, from what you said, do you not get that sense that it's not maybe as bad as it's made out to be in some aspects of the world?
I mean, it obviously didn't go well last August. I mean, the Senzel wanted to return. The Reds said, we don't think you're healthy and fit enough to play at the major league level on a daily basis. So they sent him down, and then Senzel said he was still hurt and ended the season on the injured list. But every time I've talked to a front office guy, I mean, it's always kind of been the same message. Like, he's still a guy we believe in. We're not looking to trade him. We're not looking to, we still think he could be our starting center fielder next year. I think obviously the injuries are kind of make it a little bit less like we can't for sure picture him as our starting center fielder. He's going to have to come in healthy, kind of prove some things in spring training. But I don't get the sense that it's kind of like a irreparable relationship or that he wouldn't be happy playing. I mean, I think it was a frustrating season, frustrating injury, and it just kind of played out publicly.
That's awesome.
Yeah, if he's healthy and he's banging in spring training, the relationship's going to be fine. But if he's not healthy and he's not banging, the relationship's not going to be fine.
I feel like this is kind of the last, like, if things don't go well this year, if it's more injuries, if he doesn't play well, then maybe I wouldn't be shocked if the Reds moved on from him. But it does feel kind of like a last straw type thing. But I just know Reds still love his potential.
doesn't really seem like it would make any sense to trade him right now anyways. He'd be trading him as absolute lowest value and still obviously still has upside. I got one more question for you before I get you out of here. Kind of actually goes with what we were talking about. So good job, Nick, preparing this. You wrote recently about the Reds' lack of depth, kind of as a concerning issue. I think probably after the Zips projections came out, you're kind of looking at that. Do you think that Barrio playing center field some last year, Senzel, them trying him out in the infield a little bit, do you kind of get the sense that maybe there is a shift in the Reds' mindset in terms of like position flexibility? Have you kind of got that sense or that vibe at all?
I mean, I think it's something that's important to every team now. Like it grew in importance. I feel like David Bell and his staff kind of did that right away, kind of emphasized, we want guys to play multiple positions, and even extends to like Mike Moustakas being able to play second base when he signed, and third base. I mean, it's one of those. I think they valued it across the diamond, but the lack of depth, I think, is kind of what killed their season last year. I mean, they didn't have. You were starting to line on to Shields and Jose Barrero that hasn't adjusted to the major league level yet down the stretch, which wasn't ideal. That you look at kind of the starting rotation, the end of last year, Wade Miley was hurt and Vladimir Gutierrez kind of hit that wall. So they had to do Raver San Martin, and Riley O'Brien made their major league debuts in the last week of the season. And to me, it was like if those games mattered, and the Cardinals winning streak made it moot, but if those games mattered, you can't be starting. You can't have guys making their MLB debuts if you're trying to win a wild card spot in the last week of the season. And it's kind of why, in my head, like me personally, I think it makes sense to trade some of those starters, the Luis Castillos, to at least explore that market more seriously. Just because, like last year, you go into the season, Michael Lorenzen and Sonny Gray were injured in your rotation, so you're missing two guys out of your starting rotation out of camp. If this team is missing two of their five guys, I mean, there's already a competition for the fifth spot. Say Luis Castillo and Tyler Mahle are both injured at the end of spring training. This team doesn't look good on paper at all. So to me, it just makes sense to, like, depth-wise, to me, that's kind of the greatest argument for saying this team has a ways to go. If you can't spend money to fill those depth, fill that extra depth, then you have to look elsewhere. And maybe make their trades and then try to build up a team for 2023, 2024 that's going to have more depth and more guys ready for it. I mean, you're still going to have Hunter Green, Nick Lodolo. Those guys are still going to debut at some point in the upcoming season if they're healthy. So I just think it makes sense to kind of speed it up if you're not going to be able to add free agents and you're not going to be able to sign guys.
Awesome. Well, Bobby, thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciated your insight, and you do an awesome job covering the team. So keep up the great work with that. You got any articles or anything that you're working on now that you kind of want to shout out before you get out of here?
I will say, yeah, I got a story coming soon. Just kind of on the shortstop journey. I don't know the history behind the hashtag Kirby Hates Farmer, but I know it's out there. But I'm going to do something like, since the Zach Kozart time, kind of the journey, the Kyle Farmer, Jose Barrero, how you're going into spring training, how it kind of works its way up to this.
Hell yeah.
Oh boy.
What is the history? Because I've always been curious and I never.
Yeah, Nick, tell us.
It's a wild journey. So I did not agree with the Reds playing Kyle Farmer early in the year at like first base. I thought they should have looked for someone else that could play that position, whatever. And when we got to the trade deadline, I wanted the Reds to go get like a guy like Trevor Story. And so I said it on the podcast. And so it started out to this Kirby Hates Farmer hashtag that our pal Ryan Castellanos really got going. And then I got the opposite, because then after the trade deadline, I said, at this point, I think they should just ride Farmer out to the rest of the season. I was like, I don't think that, Barrio is a for sure 100% guarantee to outplay him in a 6-week stretch. And so I got the other side. Kirby loves Farmer, and I really had a wild year with Kyle Farmer. I literally could not make a single person on this planet happy with my takes on Kyle Farmer. So there you go. It's reached the Cincinnati Enquirer, Carlos. Oh boy.
I love it.
And then I felt
I can't wait to tell Ryan.
and then I felt like Carlos, there was some like, I felt like you said Jose Barrero shouldn't start. I feel like I got all this secondhand. I feel like, but like you tried to explain it on Twitter, and people were like, "How can you believe Barrero should be behind Farmer?" Is that accurate?
Oh yeah. Like I was with Nick basically at the beginning of the year, and kind of it's like we need to have a different shortstop, blah blah blah. But then he goes off, and like they're still not calling Barrero up, even though how well he's playing. And then the team was still in it. They at that point they had put so much time behind Farmer and so much invested in him, and he was playing, what I considered well enough to where the Reds weren't really worried what was going on at shortstop. They had so many other holes to fill. And I thought he was doing a good job. And then when he gets called up and doesn't play, people just lost their mind on Twitter. And I wasn't defending. I was defending the coach's stance, the front office stance. Like, listen, you can't just bring this guy in here and start him with Kyle Farmer doing fine, being an average, major league shortstop. He's been here all year. He's been playing hurt. That carries a lot of weight in the clubhouse. I'm sure you can speak to that as well, Bobby. Like, I mean, that stuff is real. And
absolutely.
People don't like that answer. And, I don't like whenever you have to you tear one guy down just to build your guy up, especially when they're on the same team, the team that you love. Like, to me, that's just wild. So I just spend most of my time arguing the fact that the coach has made the right decision.
Yeah, and I felt like last year was like when you're in a playoff race, there's a lot of things that go out the window too. I mean, if you got a good thing with Farmer, you got to kind of, to me, it made sense to write it out. I mean,
yeah, I mean,
Bobby, watch your mentions. Watch your mentions.
I don't think I'd go Barrero into this upcoming year, but I think last year made a lot of sense to stick with Farmer down the stretch. I mean, to me, I'm always going to go with proven talent in a playoff race, especially versus
for sure
talent.
And this coming season, I would say that they're going to start off with Farmer at short, no matter how well Barrero does there in spring training, just by the way that they ended last year. I mean, that's what I'm going to go off of. But I don't know what I would do, like if I'm thinking about it. Like if I was the manager, I don't know who I would pencil in right now. I guess maybe it depends on what happens the rest of the offseason, if they're going to go for it. If they sign another outfielder, add some depth, then maybe you stay with Farmer. But if you don't, and you're just kind of, lowering payroll, then I think Barrero has to be the shortstop.
Yeah, I think, if the team's kind of in that development mind state, I think it makes a lot of sense to go that route.
Yeah.
I felt like that was kind of the Kirby hates Farmer. Like I felt like every big time Farmer did something. I felt like I saw that.
It was every single one of them.
It wasn't even. It was a walk. He walked. It was 50 tweets. Kirby hates Farmer. No, it was great.
Half the time it was either me or Ryan sending them out first.
90% of it was in good fun. There was a couple wackos out there, but most of it was all in good fun. And it made the season. It made the season like as always with everything Cincinnati Reds very interesting.
Yeah, no doubt about that.
Yeah.
So there you go. There's the origin behind Kirby hates Farmer. Hopefully the entire world knows it now. But before you get out of here, just to clarify our stance here at Late Night Reds Talk Live, we love Kyle Farmer. We love Jose Barrero. We love them both. We want them both to succeed. And if the Reds don't sign anyone, there's going to be plenty of at-bats for everyone. So, we'll be good. We'll be good.
That's the thing, too. It's like, injuries are just a part of baseball, unfortunately. And it's like all these debates in the offseason, I always feel like they're moot by the time spring training ends just because an injury created an opening somewhere else. And, like Jonathan India, no one would have predicted he would have been the starting opening day second baseman at this time last year.
What are you going to do when Moustakas returns? It was literally never an issue. They never had at one point, I think. Did they at any point really have all of them healthy outside until later in the year when, Suarez was struggling so much that it was like an obvious decision to pitch? Was it ever an issue?
Never felt like it, right?
Yeah.
Never.
And there
There
was
was a time.
so much heat on it, before when while Moustakas was coming back, and then he had the setback during his rehab assignment. I think that was when it was really like, oh my God, what are the Reds going to do? What are the Reds going to do? And then it was never an issue.
I mean, there was a time in May when it was like Senzel or India for second base. Like that was the big debate. And then Senzel didn't return. India becomes Rookie of the Year. I mean,
Oh yeah,
changed so fast.
there was a lot of that Barrero gang that was calling for Senzel to start playing second base.
Yeah, I mean, India had an OPS below 700, like entering June, like which is just insane for how well he finished the year. I mean, he really did not start off. He started off really well for week and a half, and then he really struggled. And it's cool to see him play through it. And what a year!
Yeah, there was a point. I remember the team was in Colorado, and I remember that whole. I think it was a 4-game series. I was like, he's on the verge of getting sent down. Like this could be his last day, and just get him regular at bats at Louisville, and that's probably better for his development. And then Senzel got hurt on that trip. Shogo Akiyama was even starting some of those games. Some of the few games he started last year or during that trip, and then it was just like India finally looked like he started putting things together, but it felt like he was really on the verge of getting sent down. And then right as he was, then he figured everything out, and then it would have been, I wonder how things would have changed if he did. But
yeah, that it's crazy to think like that. I mean, who knows? I guess it's that fine line between players letting them play through it, and I think if you would probably polled 100 Reds fans, probably 90 of them would have said, "Yeah, I think India's going to get set down, here soon." Yeah, what a year. But Bob, you got anything else for us?
No, just want to say you both are fun to watch on Twitter. You guys are great getting Reds fans engaged. So, hopefully it's another fun year coming up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, man, appreciate you coming on. Hopefully we get to have you again, maybe sometime during spring or maybe even during the year.
Yeah, just hopefully the lockout's over by then.
Yeah. I don't know what we're going to talk about.
If not, we'll call you before then because we're going to be real bored.
Already feel bored, and this is like supposed to be the dead period anyway during the holidays.
Yeah,
it's really dead. All right, well, Bobby, thanks so much, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks again, guys. See you.
All right, that was our guy, Bobby Nightengale. It was awesome. He was fun, wasn't he, Carlos?
Mm-hmm.
Had some really interesting. I loved his take on Senzel, kind of that. Hey, maybe it's not as bad as it's kind of been, made out to be. I think that was pretty cool to hear that. Just fascinating stuff.
Yeah, it'd be really. It's a shame what's going on in the world, and we can't be in the clubhouse because I mean those could have been some pretty good stories he told.
Yeah.
Hopefully that comes around soon. Doesn't seem like it's coming around maybe the first half of next year.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm really getting nervous here that we're gonna miss games here at some point. I've been looking at possibly going to the Reds in Fenway, and I'm like, my wife's been bugging me about it. Booking a hotel or an Airbnb or something. I'm like, hold on, don't spend any money. Like, I don't feel comfortable yet that the season's for sure gonna, get started. So yeah, I don't know. I did want to, we won't drag this out too long, but it was nice to have Bobby on. I did want to kind of go through the Red Zips projection since that did come out this week. Here you see just kind of the overall, if you're watching, the overall projections. Carlos, when this came out, were you kind of like, surprised? Like, oh wow, this actually looks pretty good. What was your feeling on it?
I don't know. I was kind of a little indifferent. I figured it'd be pretty similar to what last year's were. I don't know. I just feel like it seems like Winker's kind of low to me. It seems like Joey's still low to me. I mean, for the most part, like the starters are pretty good. I don't understand how they do the relievers and some of those are negative that are on there. So I don't. But Stevenson, the catching position, that's the one I thought was super low. I mean, I feel like a whole season of a healthy Stevenson, he's probably going to be with this lineup here, India Joey, like he might be going for third or fourth best hitter on the team, production wise, in my opinion, if he's healthy.
Yeah, I would say that Stevenson will be higher than the 1.8. I don't know. Maybe Knapp drags that down. I'm not sure if Knapp has a negative wins above replacement.
Come on, Knapp, you're killing us already.
I would say he's probably up, and India might be a little down. 3.9. Man, that feels that's high for.
What did he end up last year?
I think he was. He put me on the spot here. I think he was over 5. Maybe 5.
If he was at a 5, then I feel that's pretty good.
No, he was a 3.9 last year.
Oh, then
he's literally is at the exact same.
Yeah, I mean, I can kind of feel that a little bit. Maybe he won't struggle as much as he did at the beginning last year, but he might not just be as hot as long,
Yeah.
somewhere around there.
I'm sure Winker's twofold. I'm sure it's the defense drags him down a little bit, and then they're not projecting that he plays. Winker's, I think you have to play over 110 games. So, I mean, that's the big knock on him is he just hasn't been able to play a full season.
What do you think the guy who made this, I guess Dan made this, or he just printed the article, but whoever came up with these numbers in center field and the right field, they're like, hey, who are the starting outfielders for Cincinnati? Naquin, Aquino, and Friedel. What? Who? Oh, shit.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, overall, I thought it was pretty encouraging. I'll put up here. This is a little bit more into.
Oh yeah, because when these came out, that's what I asked you, right? I was like, what was the actual last year?
So the projections last year totaled, if you just total all the players up, 31.2 wins above replacement, and then 2022 was 35.2, and 2021 the projections were including Raisel Iglesias and Archie Bradley in there because they weren't off the team yet. They were still projected to be part of the team. So that's what really stood out to me when I added them up. I was like, oh wow, that's actually like a 4-win.
Okay, so our actual relief pitcher last year was 2-3. Then 4.6 is way too high. Because that means you're going to have a good Amir Garrett, a good Wilson. I mean, Moretta, he's that rookie, right, who came up at the very end that didn't allow runs in AAA.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Sims.
I think
Sims, then a healthy Warren, Sessa might be the only positive players.
Well, okay, so last year you had Hendricks, Osich, Perez, and Romano combined for oh boy, math is hard. Minus 1.3 just themselves. So, I mean, if you can avoid like some of the negatives, I mean, that will obviously help you get a lot closer to that, 4 than not. Sims led the way at 1.3, and he didn't pitch a full season and really struggled for about 2 months. So, I mean, I think he could be a 2-win reliever on his own.
Yeah.
Sessa, I mean, he was worth a half of a win last year, but he was only here 2 months. I mean, I think he could be worth a full win. Well, there's 2. And if you're subtracting that 1, well, there's 3. You only really need 1 more. I think Garrett's projection, I got this on the next one. This might be really hard to read here, but Garrett had a pretty good projection. He was worth projected for 0.4. So I mean, he was I think minus 0.1 last year. So I mean, again, these are relievers. The wins above replacement projections for individual relievers in an individual season with 20, 30 innings. It's a very imperfect science, I think. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It might be a little high, but I don't think. I don't think it's gonna. I don't think it's gonna be 2.3. I think maybe you split the difference. Maybe it's like close, just shy of 4. When it's all said and done, but the Reds could also still add someone else to the mix. Add a veteran reliever that doesn't necessarily cost a ton that maybe is worth a win on their own. But I don't know. I think if you go through, I think other than Sims, you look at the relievers and none of them like stand out as like dominant pitchers. But if you kind of go through each one of them, like okay, Sess is like he's an above average reliever, right?
I mean, yeah. I mean, no, I think he's probably about average.
Art Warren, he's he everything I've seen out of him looks like
hardly knew the guy.
He's an average reliever. Tony Santillan, we think he's probably an above average reliever. Moretta, we feel good about him. Justin Wilson, I feel like he's probably close to average. I mean, you kind of go through each of these guys and, they're not.
With your optimism, then it should be a 7.4.
I don't think they're going to be no 7, but I don't know. I think if you kind of look through them all, I think you kind of, all right, they're a little bit better than, what the perception is of them. And I think some of what happened was just, I mean, you had so many guys just, everyone that the Reds, threw up on the dartboard failed.
Yeah.
And I know people are going to say, well, they shouldn't have done it. Well, the Reds do that every year. Last year, it just like it really all went bad. But I mean, the Reds have had, you look back through, the last couple of years before that, Reds have brought guys up. Like they signed Jared Hughes for like $2 million, and like he was a really, really good reliever for them.
Crazy eyes.
But like like the 2021 version of Jared Hughes, Sean Doolittle, just didn't work out. So I think some of that, just hopefully your luck on some of those things kind of turn around a little bit. But yeah. Oh wow. It's a big comment there from Chad. Are there any other Red shows on YouTube? Are we the only one? Oh no, Chad's got a show. Chad, that's not very nice.
Chad's big bopping on the Reds steamboat.
Is he that mad at Bill that he had to say that? Man,
do what?
Never mind.
Let's go. I'm gonna fire off some names, and you go over or under.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay, Castillo 3.8.
I feel like that's like right on, but I'll say over.
Malley 3.6.
Over. I think Malley will be ahead of Castillo. That's my bold prediction.
Okay. Reds shortstop 1.2. Not just Farmer. That's Farmer.
You got to do great because I was at least going to say under for one of them, so I don't look like I'm just a complete homer. All right, Reds shortstop. You say 1.2. Yeah, I mean I'm going to say over just because you're going to have Barrio in the mix there. Farmer was worth I think 1.2 on his own last year. So I think that's over.
Okay. Votto at 2.1.
I'm going to say over. I mean, I think obviously at this stage of the career, it's really difficult to project what Joey's going to do. Also, as much as it pains me to say, is he going to be able to stay healthy? It's not Joey. It's not anything that Joey does right or wrong. Just when you're that age, players get hurt. So I would say over, but I'm cautious on that. And not because of necessarily production. I would say more like, is he going to be able to stay healthy?
And Suarez at a 2.0.
That's Suarez and Moustakas.
I know what that says, but I'm thinking it's Suarez at a 2.0.
Just Suarez. I'm gonna say under. I'm gonna say
Kirby hates Suarez.
Okay, let me break this down a little bit more. Okay, so I think Suarez will be a above average hitter. Maybe not a lot, but I think he'll probably put up like, I don't know, maybe like a 800 OPS or something like that, something respectable. But I don't think he gets to 2 wins by replacement because his defense isn't very good anymore. So I think he'll be like probably in like the, I would say he's probably like that 1.7, 1.8 range if I'm just, throwing out a blind number. All right, let me throw a couple out to you. Green 1.8.
Who?
Hunter Green.
Oh, I thought you said Kareem. I'm like, who the hell is this Kareem fella? I'm gonna go under. I just don't think he's gonna have enough time up there, and I think it's gonna take him a year or two to figure it out, to make the adjustment, because this kid's never had to make an adjustment, Nick. He hasn't. He's been the best at every level he's been at, and I know you can say that for a lot of minor leaguers, but I mean, this guy's been exceptional. So, and I think he's gonna hit a couple of bumps in the road, so I'm gonna go slightly under.
It's hard to bank on a rookie for that number, no matter what you think of him. So yeah, I'm with you on that. Jose Barrera 1.4. That's his own projection, just him.
1.4. What was my man last year? Where is it?
What was Barrera last year?
No, what was
Farmer?
What was,
I think was 1.2 last year.
Oh, dang, that's a good one.
No, Farmer. Oh, sorry. Like we all do. I sold Kyle short. He was 1.6 last year. Sorry, Kyle.
Damn, so he's got to go a 1.4. I'm gonna go over. I'd say if he gets enough ABs, he'll be at least Kyle Farmer.
Yeah, and Farmer,
just because of the power numbers.
And Farmer also, with the WAR calculation, they use defensive runs saved, which isn't as good of a stat. I don't feel as outs above average, which is through StatCast. But Farmer wasn't as elite in defensive runs saved. I think it said he was more of an average. I think, Barrera will probably get some of that. So probably get some of that defensive bonus, I would say, and kind of stick in there. All right, let's do one more. Who's a good one here? Tyler Malley. I'm gonna do the same one I did. I want you on Tyler Malley, 3.4.
3.4. Does this show what it was last year?
I'll tell you here in a second. Tyler Malley last year was 3.8. Led the Cincinnati Reds at 3.8.
I'm gonna go above a 3.4 because I think he'll at least do what he did last year. I mean, he's just too young, and he's just getting better every year. There's a trend, so I'm gonna go with it.
He's gonna be a stud.
Might not be that great at home, but he can't be that bad on the road again. It just can't.
Yeah. We did get a question here as we wrap this up. Thanks, Eric, for watching tonight. Over under on the Reds at the 500 market. Well, I'm going over. I don't know. I'm still optimistic on this team. The depth is definitely a major concern. But I think right now, I think this team rolls out this lineup right now. This team, I think they're probably a 500 team right now. I don't know. Maybe I'm just, a sucker. I don't believe Bobby. I mean, I believe Bobby, but I don't believe Bobby. I think they're gonna get above that 120 million salary. I
think the 2022 Reds team on paper beats the 21 team. I mean, because all those young guys are just going to be a year better. I mean, who they lose Ryan. I mean, Nick. I'm sorry, they did lose Ryan too.
Well, Ryan's a massive. Ryan's just as big of a loss for Reds.
Yeah, we lose the Castellanos family. Put it that way.
I'm still not sold. He's not back. I I still until he signs somewhere, I'm not going to believe that he doesn't end up coming
But
back.
still, I think I'd take the 2022 team over the 2021 team, and they were over 500. So
yeah, I think it's close.
that's
I
my
think
answer.
the Brewers are going to come back down to earth. I think the Cardinals will be a little bit better.
You keep saying that about them Brewers, Nick. They will eventually.
They did. They were terrible in September, but it was already over. Remember they got swept in a 4-game series at home by the stupid Cardinals.
No, I don't remember because baseball was over by then for me.
Yeah. But yeah, I think they'll come down to earth. Man, the Cubs are probably going to be a little bit better. I don't know, but the Cubs still had a lot of talent in the first half of last year. So, I mean, yeah, they'll be better than the second half Cubs, but at the end of the year, have they added, will they add enough to be better than they were? I don't know. Pirates are still going to suck. So, I don't know. If there's a 7-team NL playoffs, the Reds, I think I'd probably have them in as like the sixth or seventh team right now. I mean, they finished with the 6th best record last year.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's interesting. You know, the depth is the concern. I don't think losing Wade Miley is that big of a deal. I'm sorry to those who that offends. I would have loved to have seen them kept him and have him be more of a depth piece as a guy who you could pencil into the rotation. You can maybe move to the bullpen. I would have loved him, but you know, if it's Wade Miley or Sonny Gray, I'm taking Sonny Gray every day of the week.
How are you going to feel about those the Wade Miley fan club showing up when the Cubs come to town and he's pitching?
Oh, that'd be a tough scene. I loved Wade Miley when he was here, but I hope the Reds. I hope he pitches in that first series, and I hope the Reds like put up a 10 spot on him. I hope it's like that Rockies game that he pitched last year. That would just. I feel like.
That's opening day, the Cubs?
Yeah, opening day is the Cubs, so I'm sure the Cubs will be like, yeah, we're gonna pitch him in the 4th game. We're not gonna give the Reds a crack at him.
Who would it be? Stroman, I guess. Their opening day.
Stroman. They still have Hendricks, right? I think they still have Hendricks.
Do they? Or they probably throw him.
Yeah, I would assume they probably go Stroman, Hendricks, Miley would probably be the 3rd, but Miley might be like, yeah, you know what? Put me in on Friday or whatever.
You know they're throwing that left-hander against the Reds.
That is true. that is true. I don't know. It would be fun. It would be a fun matchup. Again, this is actually if the season starts on time. Reds may not actually start against the Cubs.
Every time somebody in the Central signs a left-handed pitcher, I'm like, stop it.
I really don't think this team's gonna struggle as much as they did last year. I think a lot of that was fluky. I just, Stevenson in India should mash left-handed pitching. Suarez is the big key because he was legitimately one of the top 10 hitters in baseball against left-handed pitching when he was going right. So, those guys should be able to hold their own. Senzel should be a guy that hits left-handed pitching well. I still believe in my guy Aquino. I think they have enough pieces that they may not be a dominant team against left-handed pitching by any means, but I don't think it's going to be as bad. I don't. Even without Castellanos, I think some of that was just, I don't know, just a bad year. But I don't know. Maybe they can pick up someone like a Phil Irvin that just has like an incredible year that just, on a minor league deal.
Shout out Phil Irvin. He just got married a couple weekends ago.
Congrats, Phil. Who was there? Who was with him? It was a former Red. Was it Winker? Did I see pictures of Winker with him?
I believe he was there, yeah.
Yeah.
There was quite a few that were there.
Okay. Awesome.
What I heard.
Well, Carlos, you got any other parting words of wisdom?
For 2021?
This is it. Last live show of 2021.
No, man, I ain't got shit.
Well, thank you, everyone, for watching Late Night Reds Talk live or listening. Sponsored, as always, by Bet Online. We appreciate everyone who has watched the show this past year. It has been a lot of fun. I can't believe how many people have actually tuned in. That's insane. So thank you to everyone for that. Next week, we're not going to do a live show, but we will have a special show up. For those of you who maybe kind of found this silly show halfway through or whatever. We're going to do the best of Late Night Reds Talk 2021. It'll be up just like this on Twitter and everything next Monday night at 9 p.m. and then up on all your favorite podcast platforms the next morning. If you haven't checked us out and subscribe to us on YouTube under Nick Kirby Late Night Reds Talk Live, Spotify, Apple, everything else. If you like the show, leave us a 5-star review. Smash that like button, that subscribe button on YouTube. We would really appreciate it. That's all I got for tonight. Everyone have a wonderful holiday season. Merry Christmas. And we'll look forward to seeing you guys again in 2022.